Well, hello and welcome everybody to another issue of Behind the Artists. I'm your host, Blake Davis, and GM here at Green Hill. Today, we are privileged to be talking to Deborah Silver, one of our artists. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Blake. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Absolutely. So, we wanted to have you on because Deborah just had an album that released in May. It debuted with a little number one next to it. So that's a big deal around here on the traditional jazz chart. Of course, she's pointing there to Deborah Silver, Basie Rocks. That was done with the iconic Count Basie Orchestra. And we're going to get into that here in just a little bit because she has all kinds of guests on this record. If you're a jazz fan, if you like to just listen to large ensembles, lots of brass, you're going to love this record. So we're going to get into that in just a minute. But first, we're going to do this segment we like to call First Things First, Deborah. And these are
Okay.
basically little rapid fire questions. They're fun questions for the audience to kind of get to know you better as
Great.
an artist. So here we go. Don't
All
be
right.
nervous.
I
Don't
feel
be
like I'm on
nervous.
a game show. Here we go.
All right. Favorite soft drink or your drink of choice?
Water.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Vocalist.
Yeah, actually water, bottled water. Here, hold on. Here's my choice.
There we go. That's a good one too. I like that one. If I go to gas stations, not that we're plugging it, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right,
definitely a
right.
good one. Um, but yeah, water, and I'm glad to hear you say that as a singer. We're not going to be drying out the vocal cords, so that's great. Um, okay, so when I think of you, when I see you on stage, it reminds me of remember the old VH1 concerts where they had like divas, and it was like
Oh.
Faith Hill and everybody, with the outfits, and just you've got a great stage persona. So my question to you is, uh, take yourself back a little bit, a few years. Better TV show. We going Dynasty or Dallas?
Oh, Dynasty. Absolutely.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew. Who was your favorite character on Dynasty?
It had to be Joan
Oh
Collins.
yeah,
She was so good at being bad.
yeah. No, she
So
was great. I knew it was either going to be that or you were going to be a Sue Ellen girl, from Dallas. But
Oh,
Dynasty, the glitz and glamour. So I
yeah.
figured you would say that.
Joan Collins,
Yeah,
darling.
oh, absolutely. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your all-time favorite dream car?
You're gonna laugh at this because, I'm still driving the big truck that we taught my daughter how to drive in, like, 10 years ago, and you know why? My favorite ultimate dream car is one that I can fill up at Costco with. I mean, that's so all I need is something that carries a lot of carries a lot of things. Whether I'm at Costco or I'm heading to a show with all my gowns, I need a big car.
I like it. I mean, having success and then still staying with a car, or you said it was a truck? Did you say it was a truck?
Yeah, well, it's not a pickup truck, although I really want one. I've been asking for a while, but I'm worried that I have too many things to drive around and they'd all get wet, so I have a truck, but it's an SUV.
I got it. All right. I like that answer. Of course,
Mhm.
that's like all the rage right now. You can barely even buy, a sedan anymore. If you go to a car dealership, it's all SUVs. That's definitely the rage.
Well,
Um,
I best guess I've been installed my whole time because ever since I had my babies, and they are now 27 and 28, that's the car I got because I wanted to be safe with them in the back with the car seats, and I stuck to it,
yeah.
because after I fit them in their car seats, then I fit everything in at Costco, so it just works for
Yeah.
me.
Love that answer. Okay. Favorite concert you attended, or actually your first concert you ever attended?
Oh, well, I can remember my very first concert. I was in ninth grade, and I went with my girlfriend to see Jackson Brown at the Jackson, Mississippi Coliseum. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi.
Outstanding. Jackson Brown, also one of the primary wave artists that they work with in catalog. So excellent,
Perfect.
amazing songwriter.
Yes.
Written for the Eagles. How was that show? Was it amazing?
I'm sure it was. I probably don't remember a thing except for that it was my first one and, went to many after that, but I'm sure knowing Jackson Brown, I'm sure it was great.
Well, that's a good answer. And Jackson, that's a cool one as well. Sometimes the first concert, especially if it's like your parents taking you or something, maybe not so cool, but that's actually a really cool one. I'm envious of
Oh,
that.
well, If it's the first one my parents brought me to, that's a different story because they brought me so many places from operas to Ella Fitzgerald.
Oop,
But my first concert as a teenager on my own was Jackson
okay, I like that answer. That's a great one.
Browne.
Okay, this next one, it's been a bit of a controversial question here because people
Okay.
seem to be very adamant about how they answer this. But we're talking about the toilet paper roll, and when you put it on the little thing there, are we going? Does it need to be over, or does it need to be under?
You know what? I truthfully don't care. I'm
Okay.
sure I go both ways.
All right. So we've had some people said definitely under, and then last week somebody that said over, and then in the office it's been a bit of a debate. So, okay, so Deborah's
I'm
not
I'm
picking.
very easy. I am so not a diva, and my toilet paper can go either way. I am fine as long as it's there. I'm
Uh,
good.
okay, all right. How about what is the weirdest thing a fan or anyone has ever given you?
Oh boy. Weird. I don't know if I've ever gotten anything weird. Although, you know what's funny? Oh my gosh, that you said that because I just came across this picture on my phone. Someone gave me a bottle of olive oil, but I don't think it's olive oil that you eat. I think it's for cleaning. And can I tell you, they gave it to me probably during COVID, and I took a picture of it because I was going to research it. Obviously, I haven't had time since COVID to research it, and I found the picture in my phone today, and I'm like, "Do you eat it? Do you drink it? I don't know, and Lord knows where it is now." But I now you've made me curious. I got to look it up and see. I think they said they cleaned with it when they gave it to me, but
Okay, and
I
if it
guess
was
that
if it was edible, it's about like 5 years ago now, so I
yeah.
wouldn't recommend eating it any longer
Right,
anyhow.
right,
So
but I always make my popcorn with olive oil, so
olive
I'll
oil or
watch it.
avocado oil, I feel like those are the two
Yeah.
best for sure. Okay, biggest vocal inspiration to you?
I had so many, Blake, when I started doing the standards and started doing my act, I was inspired a lot by Dinah Washington.
Mm,
She's got such a big voice, and a lot of my reviews, starting out when I started performing in college, the reviews would always come back and say, "She's got such a big voice for a little girl," and, so I was very inspired by her. Of course, the one and only, the greatest, jazz singer, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan. I mean, I could go on and on with these incredible women, Lena Horne. I just love the sass about Shirley Bassey.
mhm.
And I had the biggest compliment recently after a concert. Someone came up to me, I didn't know him, and he just said, "You remind me so much of Shirley Bassey." And I took that as a huge compliment. Um, but I tend to not try to copy anyone. I try to make everything my own, but I am inspired by many, and I think that's why I'm kind of eclectic. I go from, making an album with Western swing and jazz, but, I'm from Mississippi. I can't help my Southern accent. So, I mean, I love Reba McEntire. I just love who she is as a person, period. So, I try to take a little bit all the great things from everybody and just learn from them, but really just admire them for who they are and what they give the world.
Yeah, great answer, and a lot of great, artists in there that you just named. And I think that is,
Mhm.
as an artist, you do kind of draw a little bit of inspiration from these people, but
Yeah,
then the
absolutely.
ability to make it your own. And you mentioned a couple of the different kind of stylings or genres that you've done over the years, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit because I've got some questions about that. But great answers. All right, how about this one? Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Oh, it had to be Donny Osmond.
Yeah.
But do you wanna hear something so funny? So, I was working with Donnie's music director, and I was in Vegas a few years ago, and he's like, "You wanna meet Donnie?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So he took me back, and, Donnie already knew who I was, and so I was in the dressing room with him, and, we actually, both shared the same, person who made his costumes and who made mine for a show. She happens to do all the Dancing with the Stars costumes. And somehow we started talking about shoes. And he's like, "You know those shoes I wore in the first act?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the the blue patent ones, those were awesome. And he's like, "You know what? $30 on Amazon." And I'm like, "No way." And he's like, "Come here, come here." And he took me in his closet. In his dressing room, he had a closet and a recording studio. And, it's Vegas, so you can have whatever you want there.
Right.
And I mean, whoever would have thought to the little girl when you said, your childhood crush that I would be with Donny Osmond and we'd be going through his closet. But I met his wife. She's lovely. And it was a nice experience. But I pretty much have, passed that crush, but my girlfriend who was with me, I brought my friend, and we actually had front row seats because, the music director had gotten them for us, and she was, like, dying the whole time going, "You're Donny Osmond," and I'm like, calm down," like, I'm trying to act calm. Here we are with Donny Osmond, so that was, uh that was fun to kinda meet him, and he's, just as nice and just as wonderful as a person as you think he is.
That's great to hear, and I've always heard that about Donnie, by the way,
Yeah,
and, of course, in the '70s and early '80s, I mean, the Osmonds and especially Donnie was
super nice.
huge. Did you have the Donnie Osmond doll?
Oh, no, I did
Yeah.
not.
I think there was a Donnie and a Marie
Oh.
doll as well.
Oh, well, I gotta say, I love that Marie,
Oh, yeah. I
she's
mean,
she's gorgeous and such an inspiration, and she's been through a lot with her
she
life,
has.
so she's very much an inspiration, and she's quite a lady, so
I agree. Well, I love that full circle moment for you that you got to,
yeah.
meet your childhood crush. It's
Right.
always very
It's great.
cool. Okay, how about favorite cartoon growing up?
Scooby Dooby Doo.
I love it. I love it.
Always.
We just had another artist that said that same thing. I mean, so many classic, Scooby-Doo episodes, and, of course,
I love
Casey
it.
Kasem, voicing some of the people.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Great
And
one.
Thelma, the smart one, I gotta tell you, I watch that religiously every Saturday, and I love mysteries, number 1, so, couldn't I loved that cartoon, and I'm sure, my loving it brought it into my children as well, and, we have the Scooby blankets and the Scooby lunch boxes and everything else. I still got it. Now my dog uses the Scooby blanket.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my kids, and we watched Scooby-Doo, and one of the things I liked about Scooby-Doo is that they always, or not always, but a lot of times would incorporate, real stars for our, pop culture
Yes,
stars and
yes.
bring them into the show. They'd be get like the Harlem Globetrotters or somebody
Right,
like
that's
that.
so cool.
Kiss, it was always cool. How about if you're cooking your best meal, what's that gonna be?
Well, I have a few. Um, I'm a steak and potato girl. I grew up in Mississippi, and so, I love meat and potatoes. I'm actually cooking tonight for my family, and it's a favorite meal that actually we found and fell in love with it over COVID. So now, whenever the whole family comes over to eat, I start cooking this. It's a breaded chicken with the salad, the arugula on top, and then the cauliflower with the Dijon mustard, and truthfully, it's, like, become my favorite meal, my family's favorite meal, but if I had to tell you my absolute favorite food, it would be popcorn.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can I can eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just
W
saying.
well, the other one is making me hungry because that sounds delicious, and then popcorn, especially if it's movie popcorn.
Oh,
I
yes.
cannot go to the movies and not have popcorn, so,
You're right. I
yeah,
was I was just talking about that with my mom, last night
yeah,
because we were talking said the same thing, like, you get the smell,
yeah.
and it's over, you have to eat it,
Yeah,
so I
popcorn and
can't
cherry
not eat
Coke, when I go, that's my go-tos.
it.
Um, okay, a couple more here. Last TV show that you binged?
Well, I have to tell you, I don't have time for TV. I'm a news junkie. Like if I turn on the TV, I have the news on. But I did watch a Netflix and I think it was called my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask my daughter. It was about a woman in the Hamptons who was she was going out for revenge. I think it was called Revenge or something like that. And it was really good. Like I would watch it again. And I really like that's my one thing. My goal in life is to be bored, but I mean, my kids are 27 and 28, and I have not even chosen their bar mitzvah pictures. That's how fast life just goes on. So
Well,
I am so behind,
well,
so
you're
behind.
busy. I mean, you're promoting a record and stuff, and,
Yeah.
I know how that can be. Um,
So
it's it's a good thing that you have something that, a passion that you're able to do and you can go out and share it with people and, perform and things like that. So I definitely understand busy.
Well, it's good and it's bad
It can
because
be yeah,
your whole life, goes right in front of you. So,
yeah.
uh, I've got to get back. I've got to get my own life in control, and then I'll be able to binge watch as I'm cleaning out my closet or something like that. Mm.
Yeah. Okay, pineapple on pizza, is that delicious or is that criminal?
You know what? it is good, and it's so funny that you said that. I haven't had it in so long, but I had it once, and I thought this is the best, and I have to have it again. How in the world did you come up with that? That
It
is hilarious.
it's another debate here, some people say that you just can't do it, but, my wife would disagree. She loves it, that's her go-to.
What do most people at the label do? Do they like it or not like it?
I don't know, we'd have to ask him. I mean, I don't like mixing sweet things with, like, hot foods, so, if
Mhm.
I read that something's got, like, a mango salsa or something like that, I tend to not want my food to be overly
Yeah.
sweet, unless it's something like sweet potatoes at Thanksgiving, something like that,
Oh, sweet
but
potatoes at Thanksgiving are the
the
best.
best with, like, brown sugar, marshmallow, all this
Yes.
stuff,
Oh my god, my grandmother made all that in Mississippi.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely a Southern thing, and,
Yeah.
um, we just
Very
went
much
we're
so Southern.
yeah, we went to Texas Roadhouse the other day with the family, and they have a sweet potato with marshmallows and everything on it, and it was to die for, so,
Oh, yeah,
um
with the marshmallows, and then you have to brown them a little bit.
and they were, yeah, it was
And
delicious.
that yeah, and that's the thing, you have to stand over the oven and literally not move, because if you
Yeah,
turn your head,
they'll
they are
burn.
black and
Yeah,
it's over with. You have ruined your sweet potato casserole, so
you're
I've
making
learned
me
the hard
hungry
way.
here. We gotta stop talking about food. I'm gonna
I
go
know,
get
we could talk
something
about
to
food
eat.
all day.
Okay, here's the last one in our first things first segment. If you could master something new at this stage or this age in life, what would it be?
Oh my god, so many things. I mean, obviously, there's languages. I would love to be able to master, even gardening, learning about all the different plants and flowers, and being able to learn about how to do, grow my own vegetables and fruits. I would love to learn how to sew. I really need that in my performances because sometimes I'll have some beads coming off, and I'm like, okay, I need to get these on. And a little confession, I have been known to tape my hems because I don't sew, and so I get that tape on them. But, God, graphic arts, I mean, my daughter knows a lot about it, and I'm always bothering her, "Can you make this flyer for me?" or "Can you do this for me?" But, I mean, just there's so many things to master, like, just alone on the computer. I need several more lives in this world because there's just not enough time. But, even playing more instruments, I started learning the guitar, I started learning the drums. I'm a classical pianist. I would go back and, master all the classical pieces I used to play. I mean, you name it. I mean, I I'd love that's a good question. I'd love to hear what other people have to say, but
Yeah, I'd say
there's
one of
so many
the
things.
the popular answers definitely, learning languages and then instruments, because
Mhm.
I think so many of us as we get older, our parents will turn us on to
Yeah.
an instrument and, it's not fun
Right.
to practice when you're
Right.
little, and so you end up turning your interest to other things, and then as
Right.
you get older, you're going, "Man, I wish I would've stuck with piano
I
or
know.
whatever."
I
So that's a
know.
popular answer. Well, that is the end of our first thing first segment. Thank
That
you
was
for
so much fun.
those were g yeah, you had great answers there, but, as we discussed before, this show is called Behind the Artist, and really, the purpose of the show is to get an up close and personal look at you and see the things that, that make you tick. So, you grew up in Mississippi, right?
I sure did.
And was your family musical? How did you get into this whole music space?
Well, yes, my family was musical. My mother went to the New England Conservatory of Music. She was a lyric soprano, and she had been in operas and starred in a lot of plays and had sung. She sang at a lot of benefits, and she had people want to take her to the Met and have a career, but she actually gave it all up to marry my dad and to move to Mississippi. They met. My dad was at Harvard in the business school. My mom was at the New England Conservatory of Music, and they met there. And then they moved back to Mississippi. And my dad was a sax player. he was a businessman who had his own band, and it was called Bobby and his Dixie Cats. And he played the sax, and his friends and family were all in it, and it was basically a Dixieland jazz band. And so I think the music just came natural. I mean, they put all their daughters into piano lessons first, and we all took ballet and dance, and we were a very musical family. My grandmother, my mother's mother, was a concert violinist, and
Wow.
she was in an orchestra starting at 16 years old up through her 80s.
Wow.
And I actually feel bad because she always wanted, I have 2 sisters, and she always wanted the 2 sisters and me, the 3 of us, to be like the Lennon sisters, and she always wanted us to form a singing group. And I feel bad because she pushed it, and, like, when talking about having time to watch TV, I would be sitting on the couch watching TV, and she'd come in the room and go, "What are you doing? Those kids didn't get on TV by sitting on the couch and watching." And, she pushed us to be our best, but to really do it with our music. But, I mean, she wasn't tough, like, she was saying it in a nice way, and, I do regret that I didn't do that, that I didn't follow up on her suggestions.
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask you about that. So you, siblings, you've got 2, is that
Yeah, I have a sister. I have 2 sisters, one older and one younger. I'm right in the middle. And they both have been musical in their lives as well. They just didn't pursue it. My younger sister, I will say, was in the marching band at the University of Southern California.
wow.
And the crazy thing is, I now am working with musicians who were in the band with her, and they're playing for me in my shows in LA.
Wow, that is cool.
It's crazy
And
how
these are
that
people that knew her at when she was in college?
yeah. Yeah, so I was performing at Catalina Jazz Club in LA a few years ago. And I had Bijan Watson heading up my horn section. And Bijan, if you saw that movie La La Land,
Yeah.
Bijan was the featured trumpet player. They would always go into this bar, and he was standing on the stage playing alone. So, I mean, Steve Tyrell, who produced much of my music and my album, he's the one that actually put me with Bijan when I was getting my musicians together for the show. And after I'd been working with Bijan, my sister called me and she said, in her Southern accent, "Oh my gosh, you're working with Bijan. We went to school together." And so that, of course, made Bijan and I, very close. And we were together on the jazz cruise. We performed together. And he was just with me again in Catalina. And he basically, always says, "I got you, sis,
Yeah.
whatever I need." And we're really family. And it's crazy how I'm working with him. I didn't even know he went to school with my sister. And then apparently this happened a lot because now that I think about it, there was a guy, I worked at Disney when I was in LA, and I hosted a show and sang for them. I had a partner. His name is Keith Jones. And I don't know how many years it took for him to figure out that I was Sherry's my sister, that I was Sherry's sister. And he's like, "I went to school with her." Like, he was the cheerleader there. And so it's just these coincidences just keep coming up. So
I feel like
it's a small world.
it is, and I feel like when you have things like that in your life, it means you're kind of on the right path, you know?
I'd
Um,
like to think that.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
nice.
When
That's
things
nice. Yeah.
are dropped into your life like that, I feel like that's something higher than us or a power above us that's saying,
Right.
"You're doing the right thing." This
I
is
like
what you're
that.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
Um, what was your first kinda taste in the music space? I know you did pageants, I think, growing up. Was that your first opportunity to kinda perform in front of
Well,
people?
okay, so here's the funny story. As I mentioned, I was a classical pianist. I studied for probably a dozen years. And so I went to Washington University in St. Louis. I was supposed to be the doctor in the family. And when I got there, I realized I am too much of a ham to be a doctor. I want to perform. I need to be in front of people. And here I'm in the room one at a time with one person at a time, and they're all sick. This is not going to work for me. So I changed my major to public relations and business, but I took an awful lot of drama and art classes. And so I decided, well, I think I'm going to enter a pageant because it's going to help me as a stepping stone to get where I want to be. I decided I want to be in the entertainment industry. So I entered the Miss St. Louis pageant and I was first runner up. And I played classical piano, and, my friends all said, "You gotta sing, you gotta sing." And I had been doing, musicals at the college. Sometimes, some of my friends would say, "The people in the drama department, the students are not happy with you because you keep taking their roles, and you're supposed to be in the business school and be out of that." But, I was very fortunate to land roles, and um, so I had never sung, Blake, except in a musical. And so I went to this guy and he taught me how to hold a microphone and we picked a song. Johnny could only sing one note and the note he sang was this. Ah! And it's, called Johnny One Note, and, I took that note and I held it, and the next thing I know, I was holding the trophy. It said Miss St. Louis, so it worked, and, that was the first time I ever held a microphone and sang, and after that, I would get invited to sing at different events and places, and I would host, um whatever it was, conventions or industrials or meetings where, I would get hired to come in as myself or as Miss St. Louis or whatever I was representing. So that's kind of how my show started. You're right. It was through pageants, and the Miss America pageant really, what people don't realize, it's a scholarship pageant, and it's not really, I don't even think they do swimsuits anymore, but it's not really a beauty pageant, it's a scholarship pageant, and it has put hundreds and thousands of young women through school through those scholarships that we won. So I was very fortunate to be able to have that method and that avenue to help me become who I am today and help me get to where I wanted. Because the crazy thing is, after I graduated from college and decided I wanted to move to California, who's the first person I contact but the girl who was Miss America? And she's like, "Come live with me." And she introduced me to everybody. And, all my friends were pageant girls and we were all helping each other get jobs. And I can remember I was up for a job. I did some soap operas and I was up for a job on, I don't know, Bold and the Beautiful. And I went to the interview and I'm like, I'm not right for that part. But I called up my friend and I said, I think you're really right for this part. And she says, "Oh, I'm going to call my agent." That girl, she should be thanking me because I think she had that part for the next 25 years. Literally, like she went to Greece or somewhere on her honeymoon and they were like, mobbing her because they all watched her on TV. But, that's what pageants in the Miss America pageant was. It was almost like a sisterhood. And
Yeah.
we all, we helped each other. At least I'd like to think we did. I tried to help other people through it. So,
No, love that. What a great path for you that you entered
yeah, it
this as kind
was.
of a first thing, and then you get first runner up and then
Right.
win, and then, it leads to this next, phase in life. It's
Yeah.
funny, the soap opera thing, I had a good friend out when I was living in LA that also was on Bold and the Beautiful, and the thing that people don't realize that with soap operas is, that's one of the hardest acting roles because they work year round pretty much. They're always filming and, you're learning a
Yeah.
ton of dialogue and stuff. So, yeah,
Every
you should
day.
be thanking you because that turned into quite the career. And that was actually one of my questions I was going to ask you was, did you ever consider acting? But it sounds like you did some of that for a bit as well.
Yeah. Actually, I'll just tell you, I went out, thinking I'm gonna sing. My goal, I always wanted to be on a Broadway show. Like,
Mhm.
that was it for me. That and winning Miss America were my 2 big goals, and I moved to LA, because I just loved the weather and I loved the green outside, and it was so beautiful, and, so when I got there, I mean, everything shifted. I became an actress. I mean, I went to acting class, I landed shows, and, uh, one role, which is crazy because I have all these videotapes, and again, talking about time, I hope they haven't turned rotten because they are sitting in a closet where, I mean, I played opposite Bob Newhart, and I had to play a Joan Collins style role, and he was so nice. It was very hard to be mean to him, and to be that lady that Joan Collins was on Dynasty.
Yeah.
But I had, some really interesting roles, and I did a lot of acting and talk show hosting. And then when I got married and moved back east, I focused more on my singing again.
Yeah, and, I love Newhart. I mean, he not only was he
Yeah.
hilarious, that was one of my grandfather's favorite people, and the Newhart shows from over the years
Yeah.
were great.
It was
Yeah,
just so sincere,
I've heard that.
It's hard to find that.
Yeah, I've heard that,
So,
it's always great when you hear that about a celebrity that they're,
right.
actually a good person and not ego driven and those kinda things.
Absolutely.
That's great. So you also do some, some radio. How did you get into that?
Well, when I had the Gold Standards, my album, I came out with it in 2016. I was interviewed by someone who was really right there along with Dick Clark, and his name is Dick Robinson. And Dick Robinson owns several stations and has just been in, he's a radio legend himself. And he interviewed me on his station called Legends Radio, and, we just got along so well. He's like, "You kinda have a thing. You should be in radio." And I'm like, "Oh, no, thank you. I'm just pursuing my singing right now." He's like, "No, seriously, you should." And he would just invite me to co-host with him, and then sometimes he'd be like, "I'm gonna take off tonight. Why don't you take over the show?" And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "You're a natural. You're a natural. You don't even have to go to school for it." So, he talked to me about it back in 2016, and, I was visiting him about a year ago with someone on my team, and we were together. And when we left, the person said to me, Dick mentioned that he's been asking you to be a host. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, I don't have time. And he's like, you should do it. And so I started doing these radio specials. I've got another one coming up. I think it airs on December 21st. I think the 23rd. It's on Legends Radio, but it's also Legends Radio worldwide on legendsradio.com. And it's out of Palm Beach, Florida. What I do, it's called Silver Linings with Deborah Silver. And this is a special episode, Swinging Through the Holidays, which happens to be the same title as my EP that I made with the
Yes.
Count Basie Orchestra. And what I do that's kind of different than a lot of the other shows is that I take, like, my music. It's very eclectic. I don't stick with one particular style. Like, it's not just the standards. I mean, I have like Dolly Parton singing with Michael Bublé, and I have Asleep at the Wheel singing, a funny, fun song. And it's music that I think the listeners aren't even familiar with, but it's just great music from great people who are pretty well known. It's just music that is not at the forefront. It's not necessarily Bing Crosby singing White Christmas,
Right.
but it's, somebody else doing a take on it. That's really what I'm all about. I do takes and reimaginations, I guess that's the word. I reimagine other people's music. And I feel like if you're going to sing a song that has been recorded, got to do it differently. I
Mhm.
mean, why would anyone want to hear me instead of Frank Sinatra singing a song unless I'm going to do something with it? And that's what we did with Basie Rocks is we took all these classic rock songs and just flipped them where they're completely different.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. Great record and some great
Thank
takes
you.
on these classic
Thank you so
songs.
much.
Fast forward, I think it was 2016, and you released the album Gold Standards, produced by Steve Tyrell, who you spoke about earlier. Reaches number one on the Billboard Traditional Jazz Album charts. There's that number one again. We love to see that. Goes on to earn other accolades. So, what was that like? And were you surprised that when you make kind of your first record that you have that sort of success?
Well, first of all, it was my second album, but my first commercial album because
Okay.
I
Okay.
I did make one called Pure Silver, and I had it go out as a fundraiser, and still I use that every dollar raised from the sale of that album goes to a cure for ALS.
Mm,
My sister has had that disease for 17 years, and so that really was my first project that I made strictly to help patients living with ALS.
that's great.
And so when I made this second album, and you know what's crazy is Dick Robinson. the man that owns the stations that I spoke about, and he's a legend himself. When I met him, I gave him that Pure Silver album, and he said to me, "You've gotta make another album because we're getting so many calls at the station, they wanna know where they can buy it." And he goes, "People are starting to not wanna even play it because 'cause they're sick of getting these calls." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll make another one." And that's how the gold standards came about. So, I had literally I took off about a dozen years to raise my children and raise my family. Okay, let me see if I can get this straight. I went back to work, I recorded the album, and I'm still at home driving carpool. And, so it hits number 1 on not only the traditional jazz, it hits number 1 on Heat Seekers. Blake, I had to look it up. I didn't even know what Heat Seekers is on the
Yeah.
Billboard charts.
Could be any
And
genre. Yeah,
yes! It
yeah,
was the highest selling album of any genre that week. I mean, it knocked out country and rock and roll. I'm like, I thought I was reading it upside down. I'm like, "What?" And so, Steve Tyrell, the first thing he said to me is he said, "You better go on tour, like, right now. You gotta jump on this." And I'm like, "I have kids at home."
yeah,
And to me, anybody who knows me, family comes first.
yeah.
And so I went back to driving carpool and, I really waited until they were gone and in college to go back full force and go on tour. I happened to become a hit with my son's friends because apparently there aren't too many moms who are ahead of Beyonce on the Billboard Top 200. So
I'd say not. Yeah,
that
that's pretty cool.
so that was a cool thing. And I mean, it was crazy that. Can you believe it? I mean, I hit the Billboard Top 200. That was to me, that was just felt like I was dreaming or something. But
Well, yeah, I mean, I think most artists would because it's so there's so much competition out there, and I don't care, what decade we're making music in, whether it's 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 10 years ago, to
yeah,
release an album and have that kind of success to where you're recognized on a chart, especially
right,
when it's
right.
kind of one of your first goes at commercial success, and you don't have a giant label machine behind you. It's very difficult. So, I mean,
0, right,
yeah.
right. There was 0 label machine behind me, so
Yeah. So outstanding. And
thank you.
and again, it's kind of like I'm seeing a pattern here. There's kind of this path where I feel like when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, things fall in place. And it sounds like that's
Yeah.
very much the case. Now, I remember you telling me at some point on your musical journey that you had to take a pause. I know to raise a family, but we're in a wheelchair or something happened. Tell me
That's
about
true.
that.
That's true, and that's another reason I took a dozen years off. So I left LA, and got married, and, I was actually, living in the Washington, DC area at that time, and, I was hosting, show there on TV. Then I found I was pregnant, and I basically just, gave it all up and had my baby and loved it, and within 6 months, I was pregnant again, and, I had a boy first, my son Spencer, and then my daughter Madison came along. But in the end of my pregnancy, I started complaining to the doctor saying, "Something's really weird, like, I'm having a hard time walking." And the doctor said, "Oh, don't worry. When the baby comes out, the baby's just sitting on a nerve. You'll be fine." Well, the baby came out and I was not fine, and I basically couldn't walk. And after we found out, I mean, it took I mean, you can imagine I had children 15 months apart. I had an infant and a toddler, and I'm trying to take care of both. And I'm literally holding onto the wall to walk.
Wow.
I'm dragging my leg behind me. And I told my husband, I said, "Something is wrong with me. I am becoming crippled. I am telling you, I can't walk. I don't know what it is." And so I went to, I will never forget this. I went to the head of the hospital who ran the orthopedic surgery department, and he wanted to replace both of my hips and thought I had something that needed them both replaced. And, I can remember I like walked out crying thinking I have a 3-week-old at home. I can't do this. And through a miracle and talking about God and influences in life, my husband had business with somebody and they said, "This sounds so familiar. I know someone who had something similar." And when he called me, I said, "No one has what I have. Like, how is that possible?" And it turned out it was another girl who was pregnant who had the same symptoms as me, and she went to this doctor at Johns Hopkins, and he told her what it was, and so I went to that doctor, and it turned out I had the same thing. It was a very rare bone disease that comes from pregnancy. Is that
Unbelievable.
crazy?
Yeah.
And, the only thing he told me, though, he goes, "Look, I'm hoping, I think you'll be able to walk again, but you cannot stand, you cannot walk on your hips," and he put me in a wheelchair. So I navigated life for almost a year. I was in a wheelchair. I had an electric wheelchair, and I was always so scared to go check on my babies
Sure.
because I felt like I was gonna wake them up. You know, the wheelchair's zooming and moving and making noise, and, I eventually graduated, to crutches, a walker, and a cane, and finally made it. My goal was to walk before my baby did,
Wow.
and I did. Yeah.
Well, so is this because, I've not heard of this before, so is it something that just you have to kind of educate your body or teach your body how to do again? Or is there, like, they had to give you actually there's a
It it had to heal, and for anybody listening, and
yeah,
I'd love to educate people on it because there were at that time, there were 200 documented cases in the world, and I made the book, so I was number 201. Really, it's called, and it's not the same thing, but it was called transient osteoporosis of the hip. That was the name of it, but it's not osteoporosis, it's not anything to do with calcium. It was, also known as bone marrow edema, and I just had to let the edema, the swelling go down, but it all came on from pregnancy. So this person that I met through my husband, her husband that night dropped off books, I swear to you, it was like 2 feet tall of papers. Like he had gone to the library and Xeroxed everything. And so then my husband and I went through all of it. And that's how we went to the doctor, and we read like all the cases. Like we went through them all. And it was crazy because it was exactly my symptoms. But, so if anybody out there listening is pregnant and you realize that you're having a hard time walking, please let them know that there is a real bone disease that comes from pregnancy. And that's what I had. So to me, after that, Blake, I just wanted to be with my family.
yeah, yeah,
Like I said, I wanted to walk before my daughter did, just gave everything up. I mean, I didn't need to go and make any more movies and do any more talk shows and act or sing. The only thing I wanted to do was sing to my children at night when I put them to
yeah,
sleep. And then slowly I began singing like at their preschools. I would start writing all these I couldn't help myself. I'd start writing all these parodies and the kids would be singing it. I think I wrote a parody on uh, 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 I Will Survive, and I wrote it about how they'll survive the first day of being dropped off at preschool, "So
yeah.
now you're back, in that SUV to pick me up," and so and then it turned out they had the kids in preschool sing it at their preschool graduation, so I got involved that way,
Yeah,
and I did do a few, charities because helping others is very, very important to me.
I know it is.
So I
Yeah.
I sang and did that, but I was not, in fact, I will tell you, I got asked by President Clinton to perform at a state dinner, and I actually turned them down
Oh,
because
wow.
I wanted to be with my family, and I didn't wanna take time away to rehearse and put together a show, and my husband said to me, he goes, you realize I think you're probably the only singer in the world who has turned down the president. But you know what? That's how much my family means to me, and it meant it
Yeah.
was gonna take me away from my kids, and it just wasn't the right time.
Well, and I think when
So
you go through, something like that, especially health wise, as you get through it, you realize the things that are important in life and the things that, maybe would have ruffled feathers 6 months ago aren't really that
right.
big of a deal. You really have an appreciation for the things that, when the end of your life is coming, the things you're truly going to think about. It's not these things that we get caught up in, stressed out day to day. It's our family, it's our friends.
Oh my gosh, you bringing tears to my eyes. You're
Yeah.
so, so right about that. And, I consider myself one of the lucky ones because
Yeah.
I was in a wheelchair for a long time. I mean, a year. And I saw life from a whole different side. Like
Yep.
people, when they see people in wheelchairs, they talk louder. They think you can't hear them. There's so many ways that you get treated differently when
Mhm.
you're in a wheelchair, or people look at you, feeling sorry for you, or whatever the case is. Now, I'm lucky because I got out. my
Yeah.
sister, Margie, my older sister, has been fighting ALS for 17 years,
Wow.
and she will be in a wheelchair unless we can come up with this cure, which we are fighting for, a whole
Mm.
nother side of my life. So I consider myself very fortunate, and it's like exactly what you just said. You said it beautifully. We're just. I feel very fortunate to have seen another side of life, and you realize sometimes things aren't so important as you think they are, because whenever anything happens and I'm like, oh my gosh, and all I have to do is think about my sister. I'm like, look what
Mhm.
she's
Yeah.
going through. I'm like, this is nothing. And it puts a brand new perspective. And I just think that's what I tell people. Like when people are stressed out or worried about something, I'm like, let's talk about what really matters in life, and what really is important.
Yeah, no, very well said and very true. And again, I'm sensing this theme as we're talking. Just through these different steps in your life. I mean, what a blessing that as you're going through something that is, you're trying to understand what this is, what's happening, and
Right.
then lo and behold, this person comes into your life and
Wow.
they have somebody that's going exactly through the same thing, which leads you towards a
See,
path
right?
to healing. So it's quite amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go to your next album, Glitter and Grits, and it explores an interesting musical space with kind of a country swing feel. And I remember,
That's
us
right.
talking about this as we were getting to know each other last year.
Right.
And, what made you go that direction for like a country swing sort of deal?
My husband, I will tell you, he's not in the music world, but he loves music, and he loves eclectic music. I think that's why we get along so well, because we both love so many different things. And he just started talking about this group, Asleep at the Wheel, and how he loved their music. And he kept saying, "You got to hear it." And he'd play it in the car. And he's like, it would be so cool if you should just do an album with them. That's kind of how it started. And when, they heard about me, someone introduced us, they were like, "Yeah, this is really cool." They said, we're really a jazz band. We play Western swing, but we played at jazz festivals." Like, they sing songs from the Great American Songbook
Yeah.
and put them to Western swing. They're, for anybody watching this, they're led by Ray Benson, and about 3 years ago or so, probably longer, Willie Nelson actually helped him put this band together. I think it was
Wow.
Willie's idea. And they are the coolest group of guys I have ever worked with. I had so much fun, and it was so unlike any album I've done, because we literally just got in the studio and started playing around and came out with an album.
Yeah. Well, and something I wanna ask about is I think, um, it was around this time where you started doing a lot of these musical collaborations,
Right.
and, and as I've gotten to know your music,
Yeah.
more and more, you collab with, I mean, some great, great artists, well-known artists, Pam Tillis and Peter Frampton, and we'll get into some of that, but it's how do you start that? How do you approach some people? Because there's probably so many musicians that are like, I mean, how all of a sudden you get a star to sing with you?
I think each one has come from a different way. Most of them have come from somebody who knew me and knew them, and knew that I started with Jack Jones. Jack Jones actually, it's another one that came from Dick Robinson, who I've been speaking about from the radio stations. I think as people knew and heard the duet with Jack, they'd say, "Hey, you should meet my friend so and so," and it just became a thing. People
Yeah.
would start calling me saying, "I want you to meet so and so," and uh, talk about doing a collaboration, a singing a duet. And so let's see, after Jack, I've got to start going through, well, Ronnie Millsap.
Amazing.
Amazing. He crossed over from country to pop,
Yeah.
and then we took a country song, Jambalaya, and turned it into a big band swing, thanks to the brilliant arranger Charlie Colello. And, Charlie did the same thing with Pam Tillis, for our duet of Southern Nights. Now, what's so fascinating about that is Charlie did the original Southern Nights for Glenn Campbell.
What a classic song and a classic
Yeah.
artist.
And yeah, and so if you listen to Glenn Campbell's version, it's obviously hugely different from the duet I sang with Pam Tillis with the big band. So we took those 2 country songs and turned them into jazz
Yeah.
and swing with a big band. I did with Bill Medley of the Righteous Brothers. That's when Steve Tyrell produced, and, I mean, we did "You're Nobody Till Somebody Loves You," and, it was that classic, style that Steve Tyrell is known for that he had me do on the gold standards. I'm like, I've done so many duets now, I'm trying to think who they are. I have, coming up on Basie Rocks, I've got, Peter Frampton is on guitar, I've got Kurt Elling, two-time Grammy winner for jazz vocals, and trombone shorty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I wanna pinch myself, I can't make this stuff up because it kind of, it falls into place. I think what happens is people send, my name and they look me up and they're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
this is cool. We'll put a different spin on it." And, so I've met some really wonderful, wonderful people by doing this.
Do you
I
ever
will
get
tell
I wanna ask you,
Yeah.
because Ronnie Millsap, obviously, like you talked about, was part of that huge country pop kinda
Mhm.
thing with Kenny Rogers and Dolly and, Glenn Campbell, others at that time. Some of these iconic singers, when you're in the studio or you're collabing, even though you're also a professional singer and confident in your abilities, do you ever get nervous? Is it weird to sing in front of these people?
Okay, I have to tell you, I am kind of, probably different than a lot of people because I have never been one to be even impressed by people who are famous because I don't look at that. I look at what's in somebody's heart.
Mhm.
And if they're a good person and helping others, then I'm enamored by them. But I mean, I've met several presidents and several, big stars. I mean, my goodness, I was like with Steven Spielberg, and like these people, and it doesn't affect me because I look at what they're doing for the rest of the world
Yeah.
and how they're helping others. So nothing like that intimidates me. Now, as far as that goes, but as far as like singing wise, I'd be like, yeah, I gotta step it up and match.
Yeah.
But everybody who I've done duets with have been look, I don't want to say this because it's gonna sound like I'm bragging, but they've been very complimentary. And before we started, they like really were into doing it
Yeah.
and doing the duet. So I take that as a compliment, and they treat me like an equal, which I'm definitely not equal as far as being known. I mean, I'm kind of still getting started compared to some of these, and that's it's been really nice how they've collaborated with me in that matter. And then like I've had some fun times like Casey Abrams, who was 6th runner up to American Idol, and
Yeah.
he's so fantastic, like phenomenal. And he's joined me in my own show playing the bass and then singing with me, and he's just beyond. I mean, I'm enamored with him just with his vocals and his choice of how he does some of his licks and his runs. I'm like, wow, that was great, you pulled that one out of the air. But we just have fun, and these are all just normal people. And I've done, Freddie Cole, Nat King Cole's brother. Freddie, I met him literally at one of his shows, and it turned out we knew the same people, and we started talking. And then literally, he started sending me all these postcards. He was overseas, and he sent postcards to my husband and me. And I don't know, something happened where we ended up singing together at some event, and then we're like, "Hey, we should do a duet." So that's where I got Steve Tyrell involved, and Steve produced the duet. We did Orange Colored Sky, which was a song of his brothers, Nat King
Yeah.
Cole. And then it went so well that people were asking for an album. So we were in the middle of recording a full album. We'd done all the charts, we had all the arrangements, and we actually were on tour. It was the end of 2019. We were on tour together, Birdland, Ooze Alley, and then COVID hit.
Mhm.
And sadly, we lost Freddie.
Mm.
So, but that was one, like, we were ready to go and had the whole album. So, some of these people that I've done duets with, in fact, all of them, I mean, pretty much all of them, I've become friends. I mean, it's rare that I don't become friends with people I work with because I only work with people who are nice and who are good people.
Yeah.
So, I work with people who I wanna be around.
Yeah. Well, and that's important, and,
Yeah.
it is a great confidence booster, I would say, when you work with some of these people, and like you said, they just see you as they just see you as an artist. It's not
Right,
about who
right,
has more success or whatever. But
right.
I think it's really cool, and it's cool. To me, I think it gives you instant sort of street cred when you can kind of say you perform with some of these people. I will say, being in this business, I'm around a lot of, I guess, quote
I'm
unquote
sure you are.
celebrities and things,
Yeah,
and I'm kinda like you, I just see them as
yeah.
people. It doesn't really,
Right.
but I will say, if I meet somebody that was a hero of mine or somebody I looked up to when I was a kid, it hits differently. If I meet I mean, could be anybody. It's like, somebody that was a star when I was a kid. It's different. One time I was in a club in LA, and, I felt somebody kinda sit down beside me. It was this long
Mhm.
bench seat, and I look over, it was Mick Jagger, and,
Oh.
so at that moment, I didn't say
Yeah.
anything, but I was completely that one was a little bit starstruck because, you're going, "This guy's been a legend my whole life," you know? But I love what you said about, that you just go in and work, and they're good people, and as a
Yeah.
result of that, that energy brings about, an amazing project. So,
Right. Well, I will say one thing that shocked me was Jack Jones. Now, for those people who are watching this who don't know who Jack Jones is or was, Jack was like, Sinatra and Tony Bennett. In fact, he beat Tony Bennett out for I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Jack won the Grammy that year.
yeah.
And they happen to be best friends. And, so Jack called me one day after we did the duet. We literally became friends. Like, he was so funny. He would call me, and he wouldn't even say hi. It would be like 2 men walked into a bar. Like, he always wanted to tell me jokes.
Yeah.
And so, he called me one day and he goes, "Can you shoot a video? I wanna use you in the background in my concerts, and I'm gonna be singing with you, like Natalie Cole did with her father." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You're using me?" I'm like, I should be using you." And then the more we talked about it, I was like, "I'm not getting on a video. I'll come sing it with you." And so, literally, he had me come to LA and do his concert, there with him where he brought me up. But, like, to me, that was probably one of the biggest surprises of my career, to have
Yeah.
Jack Jones want me to film a video that he can play and use in his shows. You never know. That just goes to show you never know where life takes you. And as Freddie Cole had a saying, and I love it, and I say the same thing. I just do the best I can with what I got.
Yeah.
That's just me.
That's a great saying. So I think that's a good segue to get into, really your most recent album that's with us here at Green Hill, and entitled Basie Rocks. So, I have to say it's one of the most impressive ensembles that I've seen on an album, and
Wow.
and of course, we're hoping that we can, be so fortunate as to get a Grammy nomination for this, because I think it truly is. I mean, you have not only iconic jazz artists, that you're performing with, but then you've got an iconic, 70s pop and rock artist who's
Right.
well respected as one of the great guitar players. You have one of the most iconic uh, bands, in history with the Count Basie Orchestra. So tell me, how did this project come together?
Well, as I had mentioned, I do a lot to try and help others, especially with charities. And during COVID, I knew I wanted to do something to help other people. So I got together with my friend Dennis Lambert. He's actually a 12-time Grammy nominated songwriter. We built this city for Jefferson Starship. Ain't no woman like the one I got. He did a night shift for the Commodores. I mean, produced, he's written, and so we wrote a song. It was quite popular, called the COVID-19 Blues.
Yeah.
And we actually had everyone from Tony Orlando to Melissa Manchester on the song with us, and it went to 2 separate charities because I knew, the people in the entertainment world were suffering from the vendors at the venues to the ushers to the people on stage to the people behind the stage. So we had the funds go to 2 separate charities. One was the Actors Fund, and the other was the Jazz Foundation of America. And it just so happens that the person who is the music director of the Jazz Foundation of America is Steve Jordan. And so I worked with Steve to produce this song, and we were talking. I mean, again, I don't work with people that I don't become friends with because I only work with people, obviously, who I like and gonna become friends.
Mhm.
And so I was telling Steve about this idea I had that I wanted to do a jazz album and take rock and roll songs and turn them into jazz, reimagine them. And the next thing I know, Steve is producing it and he brings in the Count Basie Orchestra and, we're rocking and rolling and doing all of these rock and roll classic rock songs as jazz standards now. And that's pretty much how it came about.
Well, and I love that because, Steve Jordan, obviously known for being on SNL and that band, and I think it was a part of Paul
Right.
Schaefer's famous band on Letterman, and then, of course, currently the drummer for the Rolling Stones, for those of you who may have heard of that band. So, um,
Right.
incredible that, you guys hooked up and, when you heard, "Hey, let's work with Count Basie Orchestra," was that his idea or your idea or
Going back, Blake, to the whole thing, I mean, it's amazing. I attribute everything to God.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm very much a big believer in that he just makes things happen for a reason. And so back when I did the gold standards, I was in Hollywood at a radio interview. And as I am coming into the radio interview, the person coming out is Miles Davis's nephew,
very cool.
Vince Wilburn.
Yeah,
And Vince, I guess, runs his estate, and he just said, "Hey, nice to meet you, and come on over to Capitol Records because after your interview, we're in there, we're recording with the Count Basie Orchestra." And I'm thinking, I'm in Hollywood, it's like a few, blocks away, and I was like, "Yeah, that's cool, I'll come." And so when I was there, I mean, they were so fantastic. Watching this band, it was the first time I ever saw them up close and personal, and I just watched them swing, and all I could think of is, "Oh my gosh, that would be, like, the coolest thing in the whole world to record with them."
yeah.
And, this was, like, in 2016, I guess. And after it was over, I met Scotty Barnhart, who is the leader of the Count Basie Orchestra, an absolute doll, I mean, just a gem, and he gave me his card, and we said, "Hey, one day I would love, to somehow sing with you." And, he gave me his card, and so one side said LA, and then I turned it over, and the other side said Florida, an address, and it turned out he is a professor at Florida State University and lives in Tallahassee. Now, I live in Florida, and I'm like, "This is kinda crazy, we're both in Florida." And, so I met him. I mean, I met so many people that day, it was just really a cool experience. And, a few years go by, and I'm on tour with Freddie Cole at Birdland, and they are at Birdland recording their album, their live album, and it was one of those moments like, "Hey, oh my goodness, we met all these years ago. One day, we're gonna record together." And I know we, like, took pictures together and, it just kinda sparked. And then COVID hit, and then I did the COVID-19 blues, and then Steve Jordan said to me, "You know what I wanna do?" I will never forget it. He said these words, "You know what I wanna do? I wanna put you with the Count Basie Orchestra." I nearly fell out of my chair when he said that. I was like, "I cannot believe you just said that," because Scotty and I have been talking for years. So, isn't that crazy how things work out?
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we've been talking about, really the entire show, and I think you've got like this charmed life, this path that obviously you've been on, and things. I truly believe that when you are on your path, the right path, things fall into place. That's one thing that my wife always talks about. And I believe it to be true. Now with this record, and we'll talk a little bit more, about it in just a second, but you did a recently a PBS, or you shot a special here in Nashville at the
I did.
Analog Live, which is a fantastic venue, and that was done for PBS, and that's starting to air, and I encourage all of you to check your local listings. I think you can go find it on YouTube as well. But, what was that experience like?
Well, first of all, I loved that the label and everyone who works with you was there.
Yeah,
It was so great looking out in the audience and seeing all of you. And actually, I think it's funny because I had booked the gig and I was going to perform, and all of a sudden I got these calls saying, we're going to use this show that you're performing at. We're going to put it on PBS now. And I'm thinking, oh my God, now I've really got to know all my lines and my words, and now I've really got to be good. And it put a lot more stress on me. I'm like, I can't be sharp. I can't be flat. I have to hit everything perfectly, and I'm like, it's all, I mean, it was like a few weeks away, Blake. Like, it
yeah.
wasn't like I had a year to learn everything and prepare. I was like, oh my gosh. And for a while, I was like, I'm not so sure about that. Like, I'm not so sure.
No, I
But
I remember when your manager called me and said, "Hey, we have this opportunity. Here's when we think it is," and I thought the same thing, like, "Wow, that's coming up really fast," but you pulled it off.
Well, thank you. And of course I had to, figure out what am I gonna wear? How am I gonna do my hair, my makeup? Oh my God, it's like so many other things to think about. And then I was like, okay, I gotta the audience, it was a lot to do. I don't know how we pulled it off, but it turned out to be so much fun. I had some incredible musicians from Nashville.
Yeah.
And my music director is Rick Creevy. Now, Rick plays for Lulu. Remember, To Sir with Love was her big song.
Yes.
And I mean, he's playing stadiums with her. She's got a new book out, and he's playing stadiums with her over in England and Scotland. And he's so fantastic and a good friend of mine. And he came in to do it with me. And we had a really terrific band. We talked a lot about bringing in the Count Basie Orchestra for this, but as people who are watching this who know analog, it's a small room. It's a very cool room. I mean,
Yeah.
really cool, but just it would be too crowded. We couldn't fit the whole band. It would just be overwhelming. So we thought we would use, versions of the big band charts and do a lot to show Basie Rocks and some of my other surprises from the Great American Songbook. And then I had a couple of songs from my Glitter and Grits album that I made with Ray Benson and Asleep at the Wheel. I'm not sure if we ever said the name of it, but it's called Glitter and Grits because
Great
that's
name.
kind of me, glitter and grits. That's like it's become my motto. I always say, "What are little girls made of? Sugar and spice and everything nice." Well,
Yeah.
this girl's made of glitter and grits, kind of like a jazzy Dolly Parton without the big hair,
Yeah.
And so
Good
and,
recovery, good
yeah.
recovery. Yeah.
And so, I had a wonderful I actually got her from Pam Tillis, a wonderful, fiddle player who joined me, Aria Stiles, and she's been in the Grand Ole Opry, and, she's been on tour with, Pam Tillis and Lori Morgan, and she came and was such a great addition to those couple of songs. So it was so much fun. The band was just outstanding and
Yeah.
phenomenal, and I think what made it special was the audience was special, the musicians were special. It was just a really nice evening, and it had snowed. I remember that it had snowed, and so many people couldn't get there
Yeah.
because they were stuck. And it was like I wasn't even sure. Oh, I think the director or some of the trucks for the PBS thing couldn't even make it. So at the last minute, they were pulling in other people. Like it's amazing that thing came together, but it is airing now, and you can watch it recorded live at Analog and also at PBS. And every week, more and more PBS stations are picking it up, and I think it's going to be airing for about a year. But it was an honor to be even asked to do that because. It's part of a series called Recorded Live at Analog, and they have Western swing and country, and American roots, and then they had Michael McDonald and all these people, but I think I'm the only one that does what I do, in the jazz world. My shows are kind of like my music. They're eclectic. I mean, I reimagine a lot of songs, but also, I like to identify as a non-genre specific singer
Yeah.
because I take from so many genres and try to turn them all into a jazzy, style, but, I've been known to people say I'm kinda like I bring back the days from the old Las Vegas, days of, I don't take this, I don't mean it as me, but
Yeah.
the old days of glamour because it's not meaning what I look like, but it's just like I come out and I've been known to come out in some, gowns with feathers and rhinestones. And that's why I think some of my audience comes just to see what I'm wearing because I've been known to do a pretty mean quick change. And
Yeah. No, I love
so,
that, and I think that that's an element of show business that kind of, I miss. I mean, the old Vegas days, that's why people
yeah,
went to Vegas was to see those type of shows, but I do think there's an element that people really enjoy about seeing a show like that, a true performer, a true, like a jazz room, a jazz room that was
right.
iconic for so many years. I also appreciate that you called out, some of the musicians 'cause your band was great that night, the horn player is excellent, the fiddle
Super
player, she was
Aria Styles.
fantastic, she
Yeah.
was great, and a great show, so I encourage all of you to check that out, we will have a link for it, down below in the video description. Um, I do wanna ask you a couple more things about the new record, and that's, the songs that you chose on this record, iconic rock songs. One of my favorites is probably "Baby, I Love Your Way," and I would love it if you would share the story of how Peter Frampton heard it and how he actually ended up wanting to play on it.
That was one of the more crazier experiences of my professional life. So, um, we recorded a pretty much the demo of "Baby, I Love Your Way." The band laid the track and I sang it, and someone on our team, my manager, sent it to Peter Frampton to hear. And, I, like to joke and say I was expecting a cease and desist, but instead, I got this phone call, and, it was this British voice at the other end of the line, and he said, "Hello, is this Deborah Silver with the incredible voice?" And I said, "Well, you're half right, it's Deborah Silver," and it was Peter Frampton, and
Wow.
he proceeded to tell me he said, "You sang that song the way I envisioned it in my head when I wrote it, and the band played it as if it was the way I wrote it, as a big band song." And I was like, dying, like grabbing a pen, trying to write down what he said, like, "Can you repeat it
Yeah.
for
"Can I
me?"
use this for
Yeah,
promotion?" Yeah.
yeah, yes. And so if you happen to talk to Peter Frampton, please tell him. But I was quite honored, and then, when he said he wanted to play on it, I mean, after they picked me up off the floor, I had the honor of recording a song with him. I mean, that's another one, like, talking about people I listened to when I was little, Donny Osmond, Peter Frampton, who cannot forget Frampton Comes Alive? You see him on that poster
Yeah.
and on the album with the long hair, and literally he came alive from, the posters that I grew up with to being on my album. I mean,
And he was in
that's
every magazine. I mean, really him, and then I think Kiss Alive one. There was just very few records that sort of launched that whole live kinda thing in the mainstream, and hit I mean, that album is iconic, so what a honor to have somebody say that to you and recognize that, how cool.
Well, it was an honor, and I will say the arrangement was fantastic. I mean, this is a collaboration, so I do not take all the credit. The arrangement came from John Clayton, and, when Scotty Barnhart said, "I think I wanna have John Clayton do the arrangement on this song," he's the one who did Whitney Houston's Star Spangled Banner, and I said, "Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I want," because I knew I had to choose. I went through all the songs to choose them, but there was one song I knew I had to do. From the start, I wanted to do "Baby, I Love Your Way," and I knew I wanted to do it as a big, belt out, bring the house down, sing your guts out ballad.
Yeah.
And so when he said John Clayton did Whitney Houston's Star Spangled Banner arrangement, I just said, "Perfect." And then
Sold. Yeah.
yeah, sold. And so, John just did a great arrangement. In fact, I was like in a text with Peter. He's like, "Who did the arrangement?" And I'm like, "Well, John." He's like, "I want to meet him." So like the three of us are in a text, like, "You're great. No, you're great. No,
Yeah.
you're great." It was
Yeah.
like, it was one of those. And he sure is. Talk about, people, down to earth. I mean, he's I think people have these expectations of these superstars, but, as they say, everybody puts on their pants one foot after the other, and it's just everybody's a normal person.
Yeah.
And I am I'm very thrilled that so many were happy enough with our project that they wanted to join up with our project. I mean, that's kind of what happened
Yeah.
is people started hearing about our project and then, hearing what we were doing and they're like, yeah, I want to be in on that. Even Steve Jordan, like he's like, well, it's on my bucket list. I'm going to play. And then John Clayton played the bass on a song, and then Kurt Elling, joined in, and then the one that I still, uh, can't even get over is for the longest time, my sister is a huge Trombone Shorty fan, Sherry.
Yeah.
She goes to all his concerts. I mean, she just loves him, and I've heard about him for so long, and she happened to text me a video of him singing, and I'm like, "Wait, I thought he just, like, played the trombone. I didn't realize he's this cool." And she's like, "Oh my god, he's so cool, and he's like really New Orleans funk." And I'm like, "I think I need him. I think we need to ask him to be on this album," because we were trying to figure out what we're gonna do with Joy to the World.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it clicked, and so I talked to Steve Jordan, and Steve Jordan was, "That's a good idea, let me call him." And so, truthfully, I started talking to, Troy, that's his name, Trombone Shorty, and, I'm thinking we're gonna have to get our lawyers involved and do some whole, business deal, and he's like, "Honey, I'm doing this for love." And, that's like Peter Frampton. Like, I think people think that, all these people were brought in and paid huge amounts of money. These people wanted to join the project.
Yeah.
And, we take that as an extreme compliment that people believed in what we were doing and they wanted to jump on the record with us. So we ended up with some incredible talent because people's belief in what we were doing was something that was different, it was innovative, it was something that no one has heard before or perhaps in a long time,
Yeah.
and they wanted to be involved with the project.
Well,
So,
bottom line, musicians, typically musicians that end up making a career, they have obviously a passion for it. They,
mhm,
they're good at their instrument and they get into the business. In the beginning, it's usually not to make money. I mean, it's just
that's right.
because they love it, and
Passion.
that passion,
Yeah.
there's nothing better as a musician than getting with other good musicians and creating art.
Right.
And
Right.
I think that's what, obviously that's what happened here, and I'm
Yeah.
sure, whether you're Trombone Shorty or Kurt Elling or Peter Frampton or the many other, Arturo Sandoval, the many guests,
Arturo.
they probably had a blast just playing with these other fabulous musicians, and it's just fun, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Arturo, I actually interviewed him for my radio show, and, he the things he said, I was just dying because he was so complimentary and talking that he wanted to do this because he heard what I did.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, "Oh my god, Arturo Sandoval." That
Puro. Yeah.
he taught me how to say his name,
Yeah.
and would you believe, he and my husband are now really good friends because they met and, anybody who meets my husband, it's like they can just forget me because now they've moved on. Same thing with Steve Tyrell, he loves him. And, Arturo, such a great guy, and, when I met him, it was just instant, friendship, but that is the thing I had to make sure, Arturo Sandoval, I got his name right, and I got
Yeah,
to say it right on my radio show. Yeah. Well, I apparently have been busy for the last 4 years, I've been focused on this album, and now we're in the 5th year of promoting it, and it's out, but it has been a passion project of mine and became a passion project really for everyone involved.
yeah,
But talking about the showgirl and the entertainment, I consider myself an entertainer.
yeah,
I don't look at myself as necessarily a recording artist or a vocalist only. I mean, to me, my shows revolve around all around entertainment. I just want the audience to come. There's so many sad things happening in the world. I want it to be like a movie. You go into a movie theater and you forget your life for a few hours. I just want them for that 1 hour or however long they're in the room with me. I want them to forget about their troubles. It's
yeah, a
like that
pleasant
song, "Forget
escape.
your troubles, come on, be happy."
Yeah,
And I just, I want them to come over to the sunny side of the street with me for a little while. And I just want everybody to smile and to share, share the love for music and just it's interesting what happens with my audiences. It's almost like we become one during that time. It's a really cool thing that happens when I do my shows, and sometimes I'll even bring it up like, look around, like this is never going to happen again. We're never all going to be in the same room at the same time in this order yet we have really shared something tonight that's unique, and, it's all about, to me, just entertaining and, I can't help myself. I do throw in a few, costume changes or gown changes or whatever I have, but, I really do love to get to know the audience, and I'm the type of person that, I was just in LA and they formed like a rope and people had to stand behind it to come meet me with the step and repeat. And I was like, wow, like that's a long line. I'm so happy like to meet everybody. I'm like, I'm so sorry it's taken so long, but I wanted to talk to everybody. And I'm the type of person that like if I have a show and I'm there till 2 o'clock in the morning talking to people, I'm gonna stay because I think I wouldn't be, where I am without having an audience and having people, and I love to meet the people, and I wanna hear all about them, like, what
yeah,
makes them tick. I wanna learn and meet everybody, and to me, that's the role of an entertainer. You really, like, it's about your audience. The show, I am not the star, and neither are the musicians. The audience is the star
yeah,
for me.
well said. Well, and I think that that comes across, for anybody that hasn't seen Deborah live. If you go to a show, kinda like, Deborah, what you were describing, it is a pleasant escape. You go there, you have fun, and that's what a good entertainer is all about. You wanna be able to people sing along, but take their mind off stuff, and they're there, and they're in the moment, and, that's what a great musician does, and, so, yeah, again, I would encourage people to listen to this record, Basie Rocks, with Deborah Silver and the Count Basie Orchestra, directed by Scotty Barnhart and produced by Steve Jordan. So many talented, great artists on this record. We talked about Baby, I Love Your Way. You talked about Joy to the World. One of my favorites on the record is Tainted Love, and that was with Kurt Elling,
Yeah,
who you mentioned. Just very cool. I commend you on being able to do these
thank you.
songs that have these iconic melodies and figure out a new way to do them. That's going to open these songs up to a whole new audience. And I will say, your fans, they're very dedicated towards you. They love you. They're going to buy the record, and we appreciate that too because again, this record debuted at number one on the Luminate traditional jazz charts. That's a huge deal, and it's just a great project. So I really thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I did have one more question. If you watch the show, we always our social media coordinator, Mary Clark Webb, who Deborah, always
Yes, she's adorable.
she's adorable, the cutest, the best,
Absolutely, absolutely.
great at what she does, and she always has a question that she wants to ask the artist. And so her question for you today is, what is your most favorite dress or stage outfit you have ever worn?
The one I am currently wearing.
This one
It's
right here?
funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
this isn't a stage dress,
Oh,
but I did a show. It's so funny in San Francisco, and talking about sharing the love and sharing the music. I kind of started talking about that during the show because it was this. The audience was so fantastic. I couldn't help but mention it, and somebody screamed out, "Share that dress!"
yeah.
So and I was like, "Well, I might as well because I can't wear it again." You've all seen it, what's on today is like, on Facebook and everything. But one thing I just want to say, talking about changing these arrangements, like Tainted Love,
Yeah.
I want to give a lot of credit to my son, Spencer Silver, because it he had a lot of ideas about where to take the music, and it was his idea with Tainted Love to take it like Peggy Lee's Fever, and, so we based that arrangement off of his idea, and, he gave me a lot of ideas. He helped me really choose the songs for this. I mean, we would with the 3 of us, because 'cause we'd be on FaceTime with Steve Jordan, going back and forth, and then we'd call Scotty Barnhart, but my son was always, very involved in the process, and he was actually at the first, recording session with me in New York, but, I we went through, like, Benny and the Jets. I grew up with that song, so that
Classic.
was great. Elton John, "Baby, I Love Your Way," I said, I knew I wanted to do that song. "Tainted Love" just fits so well with the Peggy Lee Fever version, and then, "Hard Day's Night," to me, the Beatles song, we just swung it so hard, it I just loved singing that song because it just swung so well. That was an Andy Farber arrangement.
Yeah.
And, Steve Miller, "Fly Like an Eagle,"
Classic.
uh, yeah, classic, but it turned into a big jazz song. So I love it, and I love the key changes. One of my favorite songs is "Every Breath You Take," the Sting song, and the reason why I like it, it's funny because I was in the recording studio with Steve Jordan, and I sang it. He said, "Sing it." I sang it. He said, "Sing it again." I sang it one more time, and then he goes, "Okay, just so we have a safety, just sing it one more time." And when I sang it, he just looked at me, he goes, "Whoa, what did you do? It's so different. What did you do?" And I said, "This time when I sang it, I thought about my kids
Uh,
when they were infants and babies, and, every breath you take, every move you make." It's all about every bond you break, they weren't gonna break any bonds, obviously, when they were little, but it was all about, "I'll be watching you,"
yeah.
and, "Can't you see you belong to me?" And it became almost a lullaby, and, so it really changed the perspective. When I'm in a recording studio, it's about the lyrics. I mean, sure, it's about the music, sure, it's about the rhythm and the jazz, but it's about the lyrics. If
Yeah.
you don't understand the lyrics, you can't sing that song and explain it and portray it to other people listening. So to me, that became almost like a lullaby anthem because what it's actually a stalker song when
Mm.
you do research on it and look it up.
Yeah.
And, so I really loved that, the Police and the Sting song, but it was really special because I got to work with my son, and what's crazy, Blake, I don't even understand how he knows these songs. It's not like he grew up on them because I was teaching him Broadway songs. I mean, nursery rhymes and Broadway songs, that I was singing to my kids, and he would bring up, like, we went through probably 300 or more songs, and he would say, "What about this? What about this?" And I'm just thinking to myself, how do you know that? I mean, he really impressed all of us, because he was young. He's, in his mid-20s, and, he knew all these classic rock songs, and I mean, I grew up loving R&B. I grew up in Mississippi. I mean, Luther Vandross was my hero. I mean, love, love, love all his music and
Oh,
his
yeah.
voice and the licks and everything he does and did. And, of course, I heard all the classic rock, but it wasn't something that I lived off of. But my son, not only did he know the songs, he knew about the band. He's like, "Well, they broke up and they brought in so and so, and then they broke up again, and then they came back." And I'm thinking, how do you know this? Like, I'm thinking this is my son. I was very impressed. So,
That's cool. Yeah.
Spencer helped me a lot.
Well, and that's great. I mean, and obviously he did his research and it worked
Yeah.
because this album has so many iconic songs. You would be
Yeah.
hard pressed not to find a song that you relate to or enjoy when listening to this record. And again, we're very proud of it, and just we thank you for the opportunity to release with us, and thank you
It's
for your
been a
time today.
delight.
Yeah, great, and just really have enjoyed learning more about you. And again, guys, the album is called Basie Rocks. This is Deborah Silver along with the Count Basie Orchestra that she had play with her on this record, and it's an outstanding record. Tons of guest artists. It's one that people are bound to enjoy. So thanks, Deborah. Thanks for joining us today, and we will be talking soon.
I look forward to it, and thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and just wonderful to work with all the folks at Green Hill and Primary Wave. Looking forward to seeing where this album takes us. One thing, just want to make sure people know who is on this. Bill Frisell. Steve Jordan brought him in. I mean, he's a huge icon in the jazz world. And on Every Breath You Take is George Coleman, who was part of Miles Davis's band. I mean, on sax. So we've just Wycliffe Gordon is on the duet.
Yeah.
Wycliffe Gordon is on the duet with me on Old Time Rock and Roll. We took the old song where you picture Tom Hanks sliding across the floor in the white tidy whities and the
Yep.
white shirt,
I'm
and
big. Yeah.
we turned it into a like a Fats Waller style tune. So um, we've just had a great time, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with Green Hill and Primary Wave. And if can I tell anybody about my socials? Because I'd love for people
Please, please.
to follow me.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to have anybody come visit, and I write everybody back. So if you write, contact me, and you can get on my mailing list, because I keep everybody posted about where my shows are and what's happening and the PBS special. And so it's everything's under Deborah Silver Music on Facebook and on Instagram and YouTube. Well, Twitter, Deborah B. Silver, but I don't use Twitter much, but there a little bit, and even TikTok. So
Yeah.
I'd love to see everybody, and I'll be putting out a lot more videos. We have so much behind the scenes that I have not put out, but we just had such a great time. I love these guys in the Count Basie Orchestra. They just stole my heart, and I've had the best time going on the road and performing with them. And I miss them. I do. And like when I just performed recently with them in Michigan, and I just walked out and I hugged every single one of them. And I said, I've missed you. I mean, you spend 4 years of your life working with people on a project. Uh, you become very attached.
Yeah, it's a
And
special bond, when you make an
yeah,
album with these people, and we'll put a link to your socials,
thank you.
under the video, for everybody to go find Deborah and engage her and her content. The behind the scenes stuff I think is great, and I think people love to see that kind of thing, see how a project of this magnitude came together,
Yeah.
considering that there's so many different musicians and personalities involved.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's the one thing I am having. I guess the biggest thing, if you ask me what's my biggest surprise, is that this little idea I had in my head about taking classic rock and turning it into jazz, and like poof, like it's here. Like
Yeah.
I don't even know, like, how did that happen? I mean, I know it took years and years and a lot of hard work, but that's the one thing I still can't imagine. But now I got to go back and clean my closet and get caught up with my life because I let everything else kind of fall to the side. So
That's
I'll be
okay.
in my closet.
That's okay. All great projects start with an idea, and
Yeah.
this one is. I'm glad that this is one that we came to see come to fruition, and as they
Thank
say.
you.
And again, go out and check out this record. It's a great one. And Deborah, appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thank you
And
so
yeah,
much.
we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to go eat some popcorn now.
That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna go do that myself.
Lots
All
of
right,
butter.
take care.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
see ya.
Bye-bye.